Let's take a breath together. I'm grinning, you folks. I don't think you guys online saw that Mrs. Ellis just went thinking that was going to go unnoticed. So our talk this morning is So Happy Together. I love that Rev Lanny mentioned that our theme this year is Living Everyday Wonder. And this month we've been focused on play. And I got, this talk title. We get these things and they're more than a year out. And they morph minute to minute on what we're actually going to say. And there's the talk that we write, and there's the one that we rehearse, and there's the one that I think I'm going to give, and there's the one that's going to come out this morning, and then there's the one you're going to hear. And they're all going to be different. Right? And isn't that kind of what we're navigating in humanity? That we speak, someone else hears, we assume they heard what we meant, and yet not so much. Is it the author Robert McCullum, I believe, that said, "I know you believe that you think you heard what you believe I said, but I'm not so sure you heard what I meant." Right? This thing of so happy together. I want to go to our affirmation. I am joyful in my community. Well, that's pretty subjective, isn't it? First of all, our standard of joyful, right? That's going to be as different as every person thinking about it. And then we get to that really interesting word, community. Who's in my community? And I believe we might experience a different thing altogether if we dropped my. I believe we might actually start healing if we let go of the concept of my community and your community. Because what we teach is oneness, wholeness, that we are each individualized expressions of one thing. Science backs that up with what we know about the quantum field. Everything is made out of this one field of energy, individualized. We think things are solid. Scientifically, they're not, right? Nothing is touching in this. No two molecules are touching in this lectern, which appears very solid. This building, factually, scientifically, will not be in the same place it was when you leave that you walked into. Just take a minute to wrap your head around that. Everything is always moving. And yet, we get so fixated on things staying the same that we turn our own lives, our own consciousness, into the Dead Sea. Because the Dead Sea, there's inlet, but there's no outlet. And so there's stagnation because the universe works in circulation. There's got to be an outlet. And so if all I do is feed myself with things that make me feel good, and I never have an outlet where I share me, well, I get pretty stagnant. And this idea of play, sidebar. Any introverts in here with me? Yeah. Once you got over the shock of shelter in place, didn't you love it? If we're telling the truth, it was like, this is really kind of nice. I'm no longer feeling anxious or concerned about anybody inviting me to dinner and how to turn it down. I don't have to worry about anybody wanting to come over and watch a movie. I'm liking this. Right? Now, that doesn't mean we don't love community. It does mean I really love my alone space. And both are equally righteous. Both are. This idea of play, rarely do we talk about the vulnerability of play. Right? Play when we're kids, it's not so vulnerable because as kids, we don't care what you think. We don't care if we look ridiculous. It's not even a concept for us yet. We're just playing. And then we grow up and get intelligent. I know, right? We get educated. What we really get is codependent and sidetracked, thinking that our value is somehow established by what somebody else thinks about us. Now, I got to tell you, I love the pre-talk song about owning our stuff, right? Deborah and I, when we do have arguments, one of us will eventually invoke the, you picked me. Right? Because really, it's not like I'm real different than when you picked me. But we have to get to a place where we will let each other be authentic. We got to go back to the innocence of our childhood. I saw a thing on Facebook a while back. It said, forget about dancing like no one's watching. Dance like a 3-year-old. They don't care if there's even music. Right? They don't care. What if you embraced that level of play in your life? If something brings you joy, and we go back to page 270, does what I wish to do bring more joy, more peace, more light to myself, and at the same time harm no one? That's the standard. Right? So if what you want to do brings you joy and nobody's getting harmed, why do you give a rat's rear end what anybody else thinks? Really? I'm a professional. I have a business. What if you have customers waiting to see an authentic business owner before they trust you to come do business with you? Right? It could happen. You know, as a minister, there's a lot of ministers that would never say, give a rat's rear end. And that's them. I'm born and raised in the South. I don't give a rat's rear end, it's going to come out. We're lucky it comes out as rear end. Be authentic. Let people see who you really are. Okay? Whether it's community, whether it's relationship, or whether it's in the mirror. So many people in the past 2 years have gone into the realm of domestic violence that were never there before because they realize that they're living with a total stranger in their marriage. Right? There's a whole lot of us that have together we're a real nice person syndrome. I don't have a better half. There's plenty of me. I don't need another half. Deborah doesn't have a better half. She's complete just the way she is. And what if we knew our own value? See, this idea of play, this idea of community demands that I know my value, period. There's nothing anybody can do that will make you more valuable than you were the moment the divine thought about you and brought you into form via your parents. Your value is that you are an amazing, intentional, on-purpose, individualized smile in the heart of whatever this creative thing is that's doing all of this. That's your value. How much more do you need to be? You are it in form. Oh my God. If we would just begin to play with that idea, we wouldn't care what anybody else thought, because we would understand that they're thinking from confusion. And we can have compassion because they're thinking that they're not worthy. Because before I can make you unworthy, I have to make me unworthy. It ain't true. Never will be. You are whole, perfect, and complete. You have been since the day you were conceived in the mind of God. That does not mean your behavior is always acceptable. Let's be clear. We're talking about the essence of us. Because we all have the potential to behave badly. And I think that's what gets in the way of this idea of being happy together. Differences are not the problem. This room is full of differences, right? Nobody's trying to hurt anybody. It's the polarization based on differences that's the problem. It's the you versus me based on our differences that's the problem. We were talking earlier that, Love Eternal has social activist songs that they wrote 10 years ago that are needed more today than the day they were written. That right now there are at least 80 that we can account for. Legislative actions in 25 states trying to obliterate the identity of transgender people. Wrap your head around that. All because instead of trying to understand, we just want to eliminate what's unfamiliar. If you take nothing else away from here this morning, take this. Everything you try to eliminate is a part of you. And so you're trying to eliminate yourself. And why would you do that? Because you don't know your wholeness. You don't know the interconnectedness. You haven't recognized it. Some part of you knows it. That's why it's so uncomfortable to try to eliminate somebody else. Because something inside of us knows that we are eternally, infinitely, inseparably connected to every element of life. Everyone. That's why even Fool's Crow, medicine man for the Lakota Sioux, the Oglala. Somebody was interviewing him one time, and they were trying to pin him down and make him contradict himself, because we do that sometimes. And they threw out the idea that, okay, so you live out here, and there's got to be ants and pests, and you say that you respect all life. Well, what do you do if you get an ant infestation? Fool's Crow smiled. He said, I do prayer work, and I invite them to leave. And what if they don't leave? He said, I get out the can of Raid. It's my house. But it's that flip on things. something inside of Fool's Crew knows he didn't want to just randomly obliterate life. And at the same time, we're all at choice. Even the ant is at choice. Right? On the spiritual level, the invitation to leave, they get to say yes or no. Right? We have that same invitation. And I invite you this morning to spend some time with yourself. What part of your joy wants to express that you keep tamping it down because of what somebody else would say? I love it. See, kids' giggles, you can't see that and not join them. You don't even know, I don't even know what he's laughing about, but it was like, awesome. Right? What if you allowed yourself to walk through downtown Grass Valley, giggling at everything that goes through your head? They can't 5150 you for giggling. They might assess you, but they can't commit you for that. And these days, with all the electronics, we don't know who's talking to who anymore anyway. Play with yourself first. Get happy with you first. Then share you with other people. But stop waiting for someone else to make you okay. Because as long as you're holding the belief that somebody else has to do it, what's underneath that is the lie that you're already not that. And so no matter how hard somebody else tries, it won't work. Because your base belief is that you're not all that, and you are. Let's take this into prayer. So with this breath, I recognize I am in the company of the divine, the infinite, the ever-present allness of life, creating out of itself, by itself, to be itself, to expand the one thing that it can, its experience of itself. I know that that is the truth of every divine being of life. Each an inseparable center of divinity, sharing one breath, one mind, one heart. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that we lean into an experience of who we authentically are, that we joyfully celebrate creation as us, and that we share that unapologetically, undefendedly with everyone we meet. And we make space for everyone we meet to share their authenticity with us, embracing difference as nothing more than the diversity of creation. So grateful. So grateful for this opportunity to simply know and share and be. And so it is in this gratitude that I let go, knowing that it's already done, that the word spoken is the word made manifest. And so I just let go. I take my hands off of it and let Spirit do what Spirit does. And I let it be. And I invite you to join me as we say together, and so it is.